What's going on, my friends? We are back in action with an upgraded setup. We've got the Hero 10 up front and the Hero 11 joining the pack, connected to the Rode mic. So setup is back in action. Wasn't down long at all, so really happy to get that done. Hopefully the video quality is coming in real good. I got some better SD cards. I still have the Hero 7 that I might be able to use for some outside video, especially at night. I might experiment with that a little bit to get some unique shots. I know plenty of great YouTubers are doing that, and it might just be good for nighttime view to be able to see outside the car, given my well, not factory visibility through my windshield, to put it that way. But yeah, we're getting ready to pick up a customer here in the Sorrento Valley kind of area, home to the original supercharger in San Diego, next to the Qualcomm buildings, and we have a unique trip heading out to Tierrasanta. And I want to record this either way, as a RoboTaxi trip and as a unique route that I don't run too often. And we'll see. This could be a customer reactions video. This could turn into a voiceover. Either way, it should be some good stuff. Still running on 11.3.6. No idea when .4 is coming out. Not really too eager to get it. I want to get all the data that I can on each patch. But here we are coming up on our customer. I'm going to go ahead and take over because we're coming in a little fast. And we will zip right in here. Does the temperature feel okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Let me know if it gets a little chilly, and I'll adjust it for you.
Thank you.
What's going on, my friends? So, as I predicted, this is in fact a voiceover video featuring a customer trip, and a rather long one at that. So we're actually going into this trip during peak rush hour in San Diego. So a lot of this is going to be fast forward with some music thrown in, but I want to go over some portions of it that are important to talk about, because this will be an example of a rather complicated RoboTaxi trip. But this is definitely a case of a customer that's gotten off of work and just wants to get home at the end of the day. And as such, you know, no conversation whatsoever. She was in her phone doing her thing, and I was monitoring the system, making sure that we got to our destination safely. Alright, and for time's sake, we're going to zip through red lights and all the boring stuff. And when it comes to the really long stints on the highway through rush hour, we'll have some music thrown into the background. Now, as we get started here, I wanted to highlight that this is a route that I haven't really been on all that much, going from the Sorrento Valley area over to the Tierrasanta area during rush hour. And the 805, the 5, the 52, all the highways are completely backed up when you're driving between about 3 p.m. to maybe 6:30 p.m. or about 1500 to about 1830. And given the very long nature of this video, it clocked in well over 45 minutes at the end of the trip. I'm going to have all the chapter keys at the bottom of the screen or in the description, so you can, zoom around to where you want the more interesting parts. But I really want to show the entire trip without cuts to make sure it maintains a certain level of integrity, so that you can see everything that's going on, all the different encounters, the issues with staging or other humans, everything that you could really expect out of a RoboTaxi, because these are things the system will have to tackle every day when it's an actual service it's being paid for. So this right here has been a problem in the past. You'll likely see me gesturing or, my little tap of the nose, because I know what it needs to do. We are not in the proper lane for this. When you're looking at the map here, and I zoom in to show everybody this, the lane we're in is going to continue just going around to the left. The 2 lanes to our right, across that solid white, are to get onto the highway. Now, there is a unique scenario up here that perhaps if there was a dotted line instead of a solid line, the system might have been able to get this right. But this is why I will continue to harp on route staging. If you want this system to be a RoboTaxi, to be a success, it's going to be more important than anything to have it plan ahead properly and know when to get over ahead of time. Don't wait to the last minute, because this is an exact scenario that's going to happen. We have, also, we're not even indicating to get over. It's not even ready to do this. It's as though it doesn't even know it needs to. So here's the scenario. There is a carpool lane there, and I think for a second it might go in. But as you see, I take over with some frustration and decide to get onto the freeway because, again, as a RoboTaxi service, this is part of route accuracy as well as comfort. The customer shouldn't waste their time on a wild goose chase because the system can't get the moves down in the right order. That being said, route staging continues to be my biggest gripe with the system as it currently stands. It does everything else really quite well. There are some edge cases here and there, some weird behaviors, but the majority of my failures in this regard is route staging. Before we zip ahead with some time warp action, you'll notice here too that we are in an on-ramp, off-ramp lane, an exit lane. And if you ask me, as we just pass several spots where it could get over, it fails to. And I'm showing active frustration on purpose. That way you guys can see what's going on in my head. One of the reasons I like the internal camera facing me. That way you can see more readily how many times I'm exasperated by how we're not getting over. We could have gotten over, what, maybe 7, 8 different times. And it won't be toward the very last minute that the system finally indicates to get over. And it's going to go one more space. And then there we go. We're going to come in behind this guy. Oh, nope. I was wrong. See? Oh, man, I'm watching this back doing the voiceover, and I was wrong there. So we're going to wait until we're all the way up here next to these semi-trucks, coming up close to the end of this exit lane. Anyway, again, before we zip ahead through traffic here, this is the issue with route staging and not taking its chance when the opportunity presents itself earlier on, if capable. And hopefully with 11.4 and future iterations, we'll see some massive improvements there. I think once that is effectively solved, or at least prioritized properly, we'll see it go from the high 60 percentile to maybe into the 80s or 90%, because a large portion of error will have been corrected. Now, we'll go ahead and throw in a little music and zip on forward with some time warp action, because most of this drive is during heavy traffic scenarios. And if anything really important comes up, I will happily rejoin you guys. All right, here we are coming up on our exit from the 805 to the 52, and you can tell I'm a little impatient here. I feel like I should have been getting over the second it became possible, but then I realize halfway through that this is also one of the exit lanes. So it's really not that big a deal that it stayed in the lane it's in. It's just a case of where I forgot that it was a double lane exit. Now, the cabin camera is going to disappear every time we do our little time lapse forward, because it's a lot simpler for me to speed up footage when I don't have 2 different sets of footage to worry about. Running through a lot of headaches trying to figure that one out. So that's where you'll see us kind of disappear and come back. But this portion of the drive midway through was pretty important because we're going from a scenario leaving one very busy traffic-ridden highway and going into another one with a break in between, with a lot of space and a lot of time to execute maneuvers in a way that will stage us properly for the upcoming drive, for the rest of what's going on. And what you'll notice here is that these two lanes, they'll merge together, but this is going to become an exit-only lane leading to Convoy Street. Now, with the map data built into the system, I would hope that it would know this. You know, I know that it can't necessarily remember what's going on, but with just the logic behind the maps, I would expect it to know that this is an exit-only lane, and I've gotten out of it already, because now we're going to see a scenario very similar to the last, where we are cruising along in a lane meant to leave the highway, missing nearly 10 opportunities to get over. And yes, one could argue that this is getting around some of the bulk of traffic, but at what expense? You know, the customer is just chilling on her phone, we're cruising along safely, nobody's really moving all that fast, but we continue to pass these wide open gaps where the system could have gotten over and then proceeded to get into the middle lane to move a little bit faster than the far right lane, not including this exit lane that we're in. And you'll see me continuously put my fingers up as we pass each of these wide open spots where it had plenty of time to actually get over. So again, to harp on the same concern that I've been talking about, route staging. Just go ahead and get over early so you don't have to worry about this. But we'll go ahead and zip along because we do finally get in at the very last minute up here, and we continue along just fine. No disengagement like there was, unfortunately, with the very first entrance to the 805. But I'll catch you guys toward the end of the ride. Here we go. We are finally off of the freeway, highway, however you want to say it, and we are heading into Tierrasanta, going down some city streets that are, typically higher speed, less traffic, and it was pretty smooth from this point on. I think it's good to note that throughout this whole drive, the system didn't do anything that felt uncomfortable or jarring. I mean, I don't think the customer looked up from her phone, but maybe once or twice throughout the drive, and it was probably because I kept gesturing with my hands, more so for y'all, the audience, to kind of glimpse at what I'm thinking without talking into the mic and making her wonder what's wrong with me. But anyway, as we're coming back through Tierrasanta, it stood out that most of the trip, most of what the FSD does is very refined and comfortable and towards probably the higher 90 percentile and being ready in that sense. But there are so many edge cases, so many concerns that come into the very minute details that would lead to it being reliable service, like not missing its turn or braking a little bit too hard. It even still handles the traffic lights really well right now, where it won't necessarily slam on the brakes when there's a yellow. It's good at kind of judging when it needs to stop. I haven't really had any issues in those regards. And even with the people cutting in on the highway and cutting me off and jumping across traffic, the system did a really good job of compensating for that and not being too aggressive. And of course, this whole drive is on chill, as are most of my drives. And even with that, it is plenty aggressive at getting moving and going where it needs to go, not missing out on too many opportunities, aside from the one that caused this trip to be a failure. And from what you can likely gather from what you've seen, the only reason it was a failure. We managed to complete this 45-minute drive with this customer with only one disengagement and no further intervention. Everything else was spot on, just showing how close this is to being that reliable. So again, once route staging is solved, I think we'll have a pretty impressive RoboTaxi report to go with it. Now right here, coming off of this left turn, you'll notice it does a really good job, in this case, of immediately getting into the right lane. And that is a perfect example of the kind of staging that I'm talking about. It needs to act like that 99% of the time versus waiting too long. It could have waited until we were pretty much right at the turn for it to finally get over, and that just allows too much room for error. So that's a good example of doing it right, and that's what I want to see replicated as we go forward with the updates. Now, I was actually a little worried that here it might not treat this pseudo turning lane correctly, as I've called it. I even do a little wavy motion with my hand because I'm expecting the wheel or the yoke to go to the left before it goes to the right. But it actually does a really good job of staying in that sort of pseudo turning lane and just following along. This, however, is another example as we're coming up through here where you'll notice it waits a very long time to finally get over into the left lane, staging for this left turn coming up to the very end of the trip. And I can't tell you how many times we've been so close to the end of a RoboTaxi trip, so close to a success, and something as simple as not getting over soon enough at this point in the ride, 40 minutes later, it messes up and bam, that's a failure. That goes into the books as a failed RoboTaxi trip. Of course, this one, again, is already failed due to not merging on the highway very early on. But again, it just shows how important staging is. I'm going to get annoying to a lot of people saying that, but hopefully it gets Tesla's attention, that this is what's going to limit them in a RoboTaxi world. They're doing really good on everything else, but they need to start focusing on this staging issue now, because it's gonna go a long way to making this a service that people will be able to use and love and come back to. Finally here, after these humans were racing around us, we finally had our opportunity to get over, which was fine. After that Jeep came up, there was really nobody else behind us, and because of how pushy that Jeep was on the other SUV in front of it, it caused probably the only weird braking scenario in the whole trip, but it was easily understandable why that happened. And yeah, the vehicle detected it was clear and just kept on moving forward. Now this is a funny scenario where that is shown as a lane on the visual, but that's a specific bike lane. There's a lot of little weird things like that around San Diego, and bus lanes, bike lanes, things that'll confuse the system. I'm glad that right there was no issue. But we're wrapping up this ride, and like I did in the last voiceover, I wanted to make a habit of asking a customer what they thought of the trip, and then dropping the bomb about it being full self-driving. So as we came up to this apartment complex, I decided to ask the customer what she thought, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to us in the car so you can hear the final thoughts and opinion on full self-driving beta. What'd you think of the ride overall?
It was smooth, thank you.
Cool. Good to hear. The car was actually driving itself the whole time.
Nice.
So, happy to hear that it's doing the job well. Even with crazy rush hour.
Yeah.
Ooh. Just right over here?
Right here is good, thank you.
Alright. Well, my friends, that is exactly why I do everything I can to avoid rush hour. Because, let's see here, I'm clocked in at 46 minutes for this drive. That is ridiculous. Fortunately, with the beauty of editing, you guys will have gotten this in hopefully around 20-25 minutes. I likely did some time-lapsing or some speeding up, some time warp, to use a Kerbal Space Program term. But yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and get home and try to get this video uploaded as a good voiceover, an example of how something is so simple as staging. Staging. It would have been a perfect trip, even through that crazy rush hour. I mean, well, maybe not perfect. There were several points where staging had me shaking my head, and I was counting out missed opportunities to merge. And though the only time it actually failed to get over was at the very beginning trying to get on the highway, there were a lot of cases where it just could have done a better job overall with staging its next maneuver ahead of time and making it an overall more reliable, less worrisome drive. And of course, the customer, totally clueless to the very end, and even when I let her know, was kind of blasé about it, which is not totally uncommon. I think people will be very much ready for full self-driving and robo-taxis when the time does come, just given the amount of rides that I've done where people have been, let's just say, less than blown away. But thanks again for the view, guys. I love these voiceovers, being able to show what kind of goes on behind the scenes, so to speak, with customers that aren't all that talkative. Let me know what you think with the way it's presented, with my commentary, as well as the sped up footage with some music thrown in there to try to make it a little less dry in some of the drier portions. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care.